Tango 6, breach point Alpha.
Subjects fleeing East Corridor, do not let them reach the vehicles.
Eyes on suspect, Northeast Alley, moving to intercept.
Tango 6 in pursuit, cargo secure, requesting backup units at Convention Center.
Ballot infiltration.
President Trump just delivered the knockout punch Democrats never saw coming. While they were busy playing defense on illegal immigration, Trump just launched a coordinated assault on election fraud that's about to change everything. The Save America Act isn't just moving forward, it's steamrolling through Congress with bipartisan voter support that will leave you speechless. But here is the twist that nobody's talking about. Because it's not just about voter ID. This is about whether your vote will ever matter again. Right now, non-citizens are sitting on voter rolls in swing states, potentially canceling out your ballot in the midterms and beyond. Socially, we're watching the collapse of liberal narratives in real time. When 76% of black Americans support voter ID, the race-baiting playbook is officially dead. Politically, Trump just cornered the Senate Democrats into a trap they cannot escape. Vote against popular election security measures and face voter wrath, or support Trump's agenda and watch their base revolt. Majority Leader Thune's decision to bypass the filibuster signals something even bigger. The Republican establishment's finally ready to govern like they mean it. Now, before we dive into how Trump's outmaneuvering everyone, let's talk about another area where America is getting serious about national security. This went totally under the radar. January 5th, breaking news, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This is not just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. America needs uranium, domestic uranium, and it needs it right now. You see, the U.S. consumes about 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but we only produce about 5% domestically. And the rest, we import from countries that don't always have our best interests at heart. And that's where Atomic Minerals comes in. They're not just another mining company. They are positioned at the epicenter of America's uranium renaissance, with projects strategically located near existing infrastructure and a management team with decades of experience. Atomic Minerals represents your opportunity to profit from America's energy independence. Visit the link that is in the description down below for your exclusive briefing to learn how you can invest in America's uranium future today. Because just like election security, energy security is putting America first. Now let's go back to President Trump's masterstroke, because this is what makes it even more explosive. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, she's been tapped to oversee election integrity as a whole of government operation. Think about that. A former Democrat who saw through the swamp's lies is now Trump's point person on cleaning up elections. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans are finally showing some backbone. The old school standing filibuster means Democrats will have to physically defend election fraud on C-SPAN for hours. Can you imagine Chuck Schumer explaining why requiring citizenship to vote is somehow racist? But that's what he does. The American people agree with you, Nicki Minaj. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, says CNN. They favor photo ID to vote.
American people are with Nicki Minaj, because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
Even CNN. CNN. I hope Chuck Schumer's watching. Nicki Minaj, right? What sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID? Like they're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? The polling data sets up political pressure we're seeing from grassroots activists demanding action from GOP leadership. Hey, deadbeats. Nuke the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. It is time to end the filibuster and pass it. Grassroots pressure backing up the stunning cross-party polling numbers that are making the issue impossible for Democrats to oppose. In a stunning blow to Democrats, 76% of black Americans want nationwide voter ID. In other words, the Save America Act. White voters, 85% want it. Latino voters, 82% want it. Another leftist narrative just got decimated.
Look here, favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
So something of a non.
You paying attention, Chuck? The poll numbers explain exactly why Senate leadership is now willing to take the dramatic step by bypassing the filibuster. Breaking news, Leader John Thune says he'll bring the Save America Act to the floor without the 60-vote zombie filibuster, meaning senators must debate and 50 votes can be possible for passage. Representative Luna, we got assurances on the standing filibuster.
Representative Luna and myself are not willing.
Here's Tim Burchett.
So based on your discussion, it sounds like you're moving towards.
Yes, based on our discussion right now, we're moving towards it. Also, we got assurances on the standing filibuster, which is incredibly important. I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about inherent contempt. A lot of people didn't know what that is. The standing filibuster is an old school parliamentary procedure, but it's a way to break through what we consider traditional norms to get voter ID passed. I think that it's brilliant that they came up with it, but exactly that's why we kind of have these discussions, and we're very happy about the outcome. So there should be a standing filibuster announced soon, and I would actually reach out to Senator Thune's office to ask him about that because they have different rules in the Senate.
So that'll get you to yes tomorrow on the rule.
Yeah, as of right now, we feel very comfortable where we're at based on what we are discussing.
Can I get your reaction to the Clintons agreeing to testify before the Oversight Committee?
I actually just got back from the White House, so that's our first knowledge of that, but I would say that, I actually had inherent contempt prepared for it to be a civil, essentially charge of $5,000 a day.
Civil charges against the Clintons, she mentions. Nice. Leadership's procedural move is only the beginning. The SAVE Act itself has been significantly strengthened with new enforcement mechanisms. New election integrity push is a game changer. We told you yesterday they were going to update the SAVE Act. There were some glaring loopholes you could drive a truck through. We showed you the clip of the Majority Leader Thune discussing it. The updated SAVE Act doesn't stop at mandating proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote. It also forces states to clean voter rolls of non-citizens. God bless America.
Weeks, there has been a lot of news under the surface about the SAVE Act. This is a bill to safeguard our elections and require proof of U.S. citizenship before voting, among other provisions. Now, our conversation on this started with Scott Pressler, who has been calling on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to allow a vote every day since January 1st. Earlier this month, Scott joined me here to make his case.
The American people demand Senate Majority Leader John Thune bring a vote on the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, and let's have proof of citizenship to register to vote. We have this one moment in history with Donald Trump at the helm with a trifecta Republican government. I say nuke the gosh darn filibuster, pass law after law after law.
That interview went viral and senators went into action. Senator John Cornyn said he spoke to Leader Thune about the SAVE Act. Senators Katie Britt and Dave McCormick signed on as co-sponsors, and several others like Rick Scott ramped up his support publicly. Here's Senator Scott last week.
However we do this, all right, whether it's part of the spending bill this week, whether it's a separate bill, whether we have to stay there, and do a standing filibuster, whatever it's going to take, we got to get this passed. We've got to secure our elections. I can't imagine a Republican senator that would vote against, making sure that you have to have proof of citizenship to register to vote and to vote. Now, how could anybody? I don't know how a Democrat could be against this.
Yeah. After that interview came an avalanche of support for the SAVE Act. You see it here. The tally now sits at 49 co-sponsors, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune said this week he will allow a vote.
They are still modifying the bill. It includes right now a requirement that you be a citizen to register to vote, but it doesn't include a requirement that to vote you be a resident. That's being fixed and addressed, and I think the new bill that comes out hopefully will deal with that. But I mean, at some point we'll have that vote.
Tennessee Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's a co-sponsor, joins me now. Senator Blackburn, as we look at this, I believe there are either 4 or 5 Republican holdouts, and I'm curious, what's the holdup for some of your Republican colleagues?
Well, I never speak for my colleagues, Kaylee, but I will tell you this. It is important that people be a citizen, that they show proof of citizenship to register and to vote. And in Tennessee, we have been ranked #1 when it comes to safe elections. And we are so proud of our Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, and his team that have been able to put us in that #1 election integrity spot. And when you go to vote in Tennessee, you have to show who you are. These records have to match up. Every state should be certain that only citizens are voting in their elections.
You know, Senator Blackburn, your colleague, Senator Scott, I asked him about eliminating the filibuster because we know that there will be 60 votes that are going to be needed for this, and there are only 54 Republicans. He said that he would be open to maybe a carve-out for specific legislation, maybe attaching it to a spending bill, something, because this is that important. Where do you stand?
And one of the things that we have discussed, and Rick Scott, Senator Scott, leads our conservative group, our steering committee in the Senate. And we have talked about maybe we use it for the appropriations bill so you don't get into these shutdown fights. Maybe we review the 1974 Budget Act so that we go about appropriating differently. But here is the point. What you want to do is remove the ability of the Democrats to eliminate a filibuster and run roughshod, be able to pack the Supreme Court, be able to add D.C. and Puerto Rico and Guam as states, making certain that we preserve the integrity of our nation's elections and that we don't federalize elections, but it is your state and your local election commissions that are still going to be in charge of these. This is all about preserving who we are and what we are as a country, and that premise of one person, one vote.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. The enhanced provisions have Trump's full backing, and his press secretary making that support crystal clear. Caroline Leavitt says Trump is pushing for the Save America Act to be passed. Here she is at a gaggle earlier.
To be clear, he does believe the state should oversee elections.
The president believes in the United States Constitution. However, he believes there has obviously been a lot of fraud and irregularities that have taken place in American elections. And again, voter ID is a highly popular and common sense policy that the president wants to pursue, and he wants to pass legislation to make that happen for all states across the country.
And Caroline, just to follow up on
and his personal push now being coordinated through the entire administration, with Gabbard leading a government-wide election security initiative. Here's more from the press secretary.
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly alongside the FBI Director Kash Patel. This is a coordinated whole-of-government effort to ensure that our elections, again, are fair and transparent moving forward. I don't see anything wrong with the President tasking a cabinet member to pursue an issue that most people want to see solved. Maybe you don't, but I know many Americans do want to make sure our elections are protected. And that's what Tulsi Gabbard is focused on doing.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Whole of government approach shows Trump is making election integrity a cornerstone priority, with his press secretary doubling down on the fraud concerns that are driving the push. Here's more from the press secretary.
The president was referring to is the SAVE Act, which is a huge common sense piece of legislation that Republicans have supported, that President Trump is committed to signing into law during his term. And he spoke with the speaker directly about that yesterday, about the need to get that bill on the floor for a vote, because it provides very common sense measures for voting in our country, such as voter ID. I don't think any rational person who's being honest with themselves would disagree with the idea of requiring citizens of this country to present an ID before casting a ballot in a federal election, or frankly in any election. And that's something the president wants to see happen. So that's what he was referring to.
But to be clear, he does believe the state should oversee elections.
The president believes in the United States Constitution. However, he believes there has obviously been a lot of fraud and irregularities that have taken place in American elections. And again, voter ID is a highly popular and common sense policy that the president wants to pursue, and he wants to pass legislation to make that happen for all states across the country.
All states across the country. You see, this is Trump's chess move that nobody anticipated. While Democrats spent 4 years screaming about election denialism, he quietly built overwhelming public support for common sense reforms. Now they're trapped, defending the indefensible, opposing measures that 85% of whites, 82% of Latinos, and 76% of Black Americans support. You know what that's called? It's called game over. The Save America Act represents everything that Trump promised, real change, not just rhetoric. For the first time in decades, we have a president willing to use every tool available to secure our elections and a Senate majority ready to back him up. This is not about partisan politics. It's about ensuring every legal vote counts and every illegal vote doesn't. The question isn't whether this will pass. It's whether Democrats will finally admit they were wrong about voter ID all along. Do you think requiring proof of citizenship to vote should be the law of the land? Let me know in the comments. While you're at it, check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows where you stand on America First policies.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.